So let's talk a little bit about the coaching carousel, the coaching change season. This is far more tame than what we saw a year ago. Wisconsin fired their coach in the middle of the season. Jim Leonard was the interim, felt like he had a chance. Ultimately, they hired Luke Fickell.
It's a big hire for them. I'm a big fan of his.
Great hire.
In Wisconsin, I don't know if you guys have ever heard anything about Madison, Wisconsin. Apparently, it's awesome.
Great town.
Like one of the best college towns in America. You've got a massive fan base, an incredible stadium environment, and they win. But not enough. You know what I mean?
It's like Auburn with a lake.
But they don't have the down. Auburn's got this chaos and coaches getting fired.
No.
And
I was trying to be funny.
Rumors of affairs and all that crap that Auburn does. Wisconsin didn't do any of that. They just win, but not enough. It's 10 wins. It's 9 wins. They're very stable. But this feels like Wisconsin's kind of tired of it. And they went out and got a guy that they think can take them to the next level. And people talk about, well, Luke Fickell's he's a Big Ten guy. And that's true. Played at Ohio State, coached at Ohio State forever. But if Wisconsin's going to do that next level winning to make the Big Ten West actually interesting, they've got to get Southern players. You want to know why Ohio State's so good? They lock down their own state, and then they go to Florida, and they go to Texas, and they go wherever they want to get players. Ohio State recruits the South. Cincinnati has 18 players from SEC states on it. By my count, Wisconsin has 9, and most of them are from Missouri. If you're going to win at the highest level in college football, you've got to go south to get players. And Luke Fickell has demonstrated at Ohio State and at Cincinnati a willingness to go there. And Wisconsin has not gone there, and that's why they have good linemen, sometimes a good running back, and their wide receivers are a joke, and their defensive backs can't cover Ohio State's, and they lose the biggest game on their schedule every year. This seems serious to me, like they're about to be a contender.
Yeah, I think there's another layer to the Wisconsin thing. Barry Alvarez was a great coach. He did it his way in the older version of college football. And when Barry Alvarez was no longer the coach, he became the athletics director. And then even slid back in and was the interim head coach at least once, maybe a couple of times when they had coaching changes. Barry Alvarez's fingerprints were, are, have been, etc., all over that football program and athletics department. Barry Alvarez is no longer the AD. Chris McIntosh is now the athletics director at Wisconsin. Now, he is a Wisconsin guy through and through. Played there, first-round draft pick, has worked as director of business development, associate AD, deputy AD, and since earlier this year or last year, the athletics director. Wisconsin is all he knows. And my guess is that there is still a heavy influence of and from Barry Alvarez on Chris McIntosh. But Wisconsin has famously been cheap when it comes to paying its head coach and to giving its football head coach the resources it needs to build a great staff, to retain that staff, and to invest in the program. Because, Borky, your point is they've won enough, but they haven't taken that next step. And it's going to take a willingness to invest at a higher level to compete at the level that Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State are competing in the Big Ten for them to take that next step. I can't imagine that Luke Fickell did not get assurances that that was going to happen for him to be willing to take that job. So that one is a great one to watch. But I'm with you on the surface. Blown away with Luke Fickell and feel like he is set to do a great job there.
I mean, that was your guy if Kiffin had left. That was your first guy, right?
Like mine or Keith Carter's?
You.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely where I would have started. I don't know that you would have gotten there. I mean, I think they were down the road with Luke Fickell at Wisconsin already. I'm not sure that you were convincing him to come to the SEC. But based on watching from afar and also talking to him one-on-one, some personal interaction, in just a little bit of time around him, absolutely blown away. He's big time. Coaching carousel, right? So we talked a little about Wisconsin, and it feels like a good fit. Matt Rule feels like a good fit to me at Nebraska. I don't know why. I mean, Matt Rule at Auburn, okay, fine. If Lane Kiffin had left Ole Miss, Matt Rule at Ole Miss, yeah, okay, baby. Matt Rule at Nebraska feels right. Tell me why that feels right.
Because he's taken on projects before.
Yeah, he just strikes me as a middle America kind of guy. Just totally at home in the heartland.
He's an East Coast guy, but an East Coast guy that it feels like is going to be just fine in the heartland. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Because you've got people that cover the sport that are just so consumed with what happened in 1992 that they think that is still the thing today. Nebraska, despite their sellout streak, which, by the way, is a joke, they've had thousands of empty seats at every game this year, but I digress. It's not a good job. It's a very difficult job. They are in a state that produces no talent whatsoever. They're in the lesser division of the Big Ten, stuck kind of nowhere. I mean, you think Nebraska's just going to waltz into Miami and get players to go play for Nebraska because of what Tom Osborne did? No. You need somebody that's going to be different or understands how to win despite the odds being stacked against them. They're not a sleeping giant. They're just sleeping. And Matt Rule has done it at Temple, and he did it at Baylor. Obviously non-traditional powers, and got them to winning basically right away. Nebraska's not what it used to be. It's not Ohio State, Penn State, Wisconsin, Michigan, these big brands, Big Ten teams that have states that produce good talent and are nearby to talent-rich areas. Nebraska's in the middle of freaking nowhere. It's a different job, so you need a different guy to do it.
Nebraska last won a national championship in 1997. They beat They beat Tennessee in the Orange Bowl.
Saying that in 1997.
Bowl Alliance National Championship game 42-17. They won national championships in 94, 95, and 97. 24-17.
About the BCS. We had forgotten about the Bowl Alliance, Richard. My gosh, that is super old there.
Yeah. There was the Bowl Coalition and then the Bowl Alliance. Yeah. 97 beat Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Was that
Peyton
Manning's last game?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So they beat Miami in the 1994 Orange Bowl. They beat Florida 62-24 in the 1995 Fiesta Bowl, and they beat Tennessee in the 1997 Orange Bowl. Since then, they have one conference championship. That came 2 years later with Frank Solich still at the head of the program in 1999. Now, he won 2 more division championships. Bill Callahan won one big. Bill Callahan was the head coach at Nebraska for a while. Bo Pelini kind of had it going, but they decided that 10 wins wasn't enough, and he was mean. And so Bo Pelini won 4 division championships at Nebraska, and then they pushed him out the door, and it's been a disaster since. So Matt Rule going to try to turn history around. What'd you say?
Too big for their britches. It's an epidemic.
So Arizona State has hired Oregon offensive coordinator Kenny Dillingham. He is now the youngest FBS head coach in the country at 32 years old. He's a former Arizona State quarterback. People are really excited about this. Kenny Dillingham is one of these guys that has kind of been dubbed as the next prodigy in college football. Any thoughts about Kenny Dillingham, or have I said everything we know about him?
I mean, he's young. He's 32.
Yeah.
That's a job, by the way, Arizona State, I thought made sense for Deion Sanders. I'm surprised. I mean, I guess they wanted to go with their guy, an alum, a young coach, catch him on the come up, but I really thought that would have been a good fit for Deion.
He made Bo Nix look really, really good.
He did.
So
that's a miracle worker there.
And Dillingham was a high school coach from 2000. Wait, what?
That cannot be right. He's only 32.
Now, this must be where he played high school football. Because he finished at Arizona State in 2012, and it's showing him as a high school. Maybe it's just, whatever. It doesn't matter. GA at Memphis, worked at Memphis for a while, worked at Auburn, then Florida State, then Oregon.
Looking at that, he was the quarterback there
since 2017.
He was the quarterback at that high school, 07 to 12. And then in 13, I guess while he was still in college, he was their offensive coordinator and QB coach. Hold on.
This Wikipedia page says that Dillingham began his coaching career at 17 years old after he tore his ACL during his senior year of high school. He started off working with the junior varsity team at Chaparral High School before being promoted to offensive coordinator of the varsity team at 21 years old. He was coaching at Chaparral. He went to Arizona State, graduating in 2012, was hired to be an offensive assistant at Arizona State in 2014 under then offensive coordinator Mike Norvell.
All right, well then makes sense, I guess. That's crazy, but yeah.
It really is. It really is. So he was 17 years old, still in high school, when he got his first coaching job. He's been at it for a while. What do you make of David Shaw stepping down at Stanford?
It was overdue.
It was time.
Yeah, that program was once one of the elite college football programs, year in, year out. They were going to win 10, 11 games. Now, they're not.
Go
ahead.
I'll never forget when Jim Harbaugh was doing the satellite camp stuff, and he was asked, David Shaw, was asked why he doesn't do the same. And he said that it would be a waste of time because kids from SEC states can't get into Stanford. And so I looked it up, and a fourth of Stanford's enrollment comes from SEC states. So
when he said that, there were like two kids from Oxford High School that were playing football at Stanford.
Yeah, just when you take a shot at the intellect level of an entire region of the country and the players in it, by the way, where the best players are, while not knowing that your school actively recruits and gets students from that region of the country, he kind of put me off ever since